start, colleagues, welcome to this meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee. Can those online hear me? Yes, Alan's nodding his head. So, as I say, welcome.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome to this meeting of the Inverclyde Council's Policy and Resources Committee. This meeting is being held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcasts available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with the Council's published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who also received invites to the meeting. So with that, we move to item 1, apologies, substitutions and declarations. Colin.
Convener, there are no apologies. We'll move to a roll call. Can the following councillors please indicate if they're present at the meeting? Councillor Armstrong.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Law.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor McCluskey.
Present in chamber.
Councillor McCabe.
Present chamber.
Councillor McCormick.
In the chamber.
Councillor Maguire.
Present.
Councillor McVeigh. Councillor Moran.
In the chamber.
Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Wilson.
Present on video.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Okay, thank you for that. We've got an additional item 14, colleagues, which is a remit from the E&R committee. We're happy to take that. Yep. Okay, everybody got a copy? Yeah. Okay, so that takes us item 2, 2023-24 Policy and Resources Committee and General Fund Revenue Budget Update as at the 31st of January 2024. And Angela's going to speak about that report. Angela?
Thank you. Yes, this is the usual revenue report for the committee outturn as at the 31st of January 24. Just to highlight that the committee outturn has shown an underspend of 542,000 and more details is provided at 3.2 in the report. It gives an update on the general fund position, which is now shown an underspend of 122,000, and also gives an update on the general fund reserves position, and more detail can be found at section 3.4 of the report. Also provides an update on the earmarked reserves position and the common good fund as well. At this point, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Angela. Any questions, colleagues? No? Okay, so we agree
No.
recommendations?
Agree.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, Policy and Resources Capital Budget, Council 2023-26 Capital Programme. Alan?
Thank you, Convener. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the usual report on the committee and the overall capital programme. Slippage has reduced and the overall programme remains within parameters. The next report will pick up the 2024-28 capital programme that was approved on the 29th of February. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Alan. Any questions, colleagues?
No.
Somebody turn Councillor Wilson Tad. No questions, can we agree recommendations?
Agreed.
Okay, takes us on to item 4, Corporate Policy and Performance Update, February to March 2024. Mona?
Thank you, Convener. This report provides a variety of updates across the cyber security and reports. The Gallup language plan implementation covers plans to bring over government benchmark and framework performance data to a meeting later this year. It also references work with the COVID service on the self-assessment framework and planned exercise, as well as an event to mark International Women's Day 2024. I'll take any questions.
Thanks, Mona. Any questions, colleagues? Councillor Robertson?
Just a very small question. Obviously, we've got in 3 point on the right paper, just checking whether I'm not sorry, I'm looking at the next paper. Apologies.
Okay, no problem. Right, can we agree recommendations?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Takes us on to item 4. Item 5, Policy and Resources Committee Delivery Improvement Plan 2023-24 Performance Report. Again, Mona.
very much. So this is a performance report which covers section 2.6, the completed actions from the CEDA. 2.7 references the actions where there's been slippage, and then 2.8 is lot of actions which have not yet started. The report then looks at key performance indicators and gives their green, amber, and red status. And she also highlights that the June meeting and the refresh this plan brought back for approval.
Okay, thanks, Mona. That's Robson.
Thank you. The question I've got is just about 3.12, where there's a performance 5% or more below target, which is about training courses. I take it that's face-to-face and online training courses, both. First of all, that's my first part of the question.
Yeah.
Mona?
Julie, can you thank you? Yes, it's a variety of formats too.
Okay. And I'm just wondering if this is a question that I had raised when I was subbing actually on audit committee, so before I was a member of the audit committee, about the fact that a lot of the training courses that are available online are notified to people through Icon, and I certainly am not confronted with Icon anymore. When I turn on, it used to be the default page that came up on your screen when you started your computer, and now it's not. And I'm wondering if the fact that we're not confronted with Icon as our internet, as an interface between us or the staff of the council and what's available to them, if that's having an impact on them not participating in online training.
Mona?
Thank you, Convener. Certainly that may be a factor in terms of it's not right up front of people's faces. We're also doing a bit of work in terms of strengthening the training options and increasing promotion communication for what's available, and looking at what's appropriate for each grade and what frequency training should we put to that. So there's a focus on training in the next quarter as well, which I think will help us to move forward. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can we come back?
Please, if that's okay. That's really helpful, and I'm just wondering if there is a reason, like from an IT perspective, why we're not we've not got.
I was going to bring up Alan McDonald in on that point. Alan?
Thank you, convener. Yes, it's the real reason behind it is that we're starting to phase out Icon now and looking at replacing it using Microsoft 365. So while it's still used as a repository for some notes and some information, that we're actually migrating most of the information across onto either the website or on Microsoft 365, and I'll reflect on that on my report later on the agenda.
Okay with that?
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, colleagues? Chris, Colin?
Thank you, Stephen. Just in regard to page 44, sort of like the service data. First question is related to the council tax collection level. Obviously, quarter 3, 23 to 24, the value is 8.2, which is slightly below target. I presume that's the target for this year. But looking at the notes there, it says the performance last year was 83.3%. So I'm just wondering, has our target reduced, and how does that compare to last year? Because obviously, if we're going up to looking at trying to finish off the year and get the target up to 95%, I just want to just see out of us to think there's going to be a bit of a slippage in the council tax collection year in the end.
Alan?
Thank you. Yes, we've been highlighting to the committee that this year council tax collection levels are not only behind last year. Remember, last year was skewed because of the cost of living payments, or 22-23 was skewed because of the cost of living payment, or the benefit to people's council tax accounts, but also the pre-COVID levels, it's behind that as well. So that's why part of the recent budget we reduced the collection levels, but collection of target for council tax to 96.5% this year. I'm a team are projecting probably a figure of under 95% by the 31st of March. I think we'll get that. We'll be over 94, but we're probably between 94 and 95%. So it is quite a drop from last year, but there were specific issues last year.
But just in terms of the year end, 95% by the end of the year, that's not the ultimate election. So expect to collect more after the year end.
Yes, our budget approach allows us to collect council tax. Well, we collect council tax for another 8 years to get up to whatever target we set, and then anything we get over the target is found money. an act of the budget and the finance budget for any of the found money if we exceed targets.
But just at the moment, we are certainly below the curve, what we would expect.
We're behind where we've been for about 5 years, but that's the point I would stress is I wouldn't compare 22-23 with 23-24, albeit that's the year to say, because 22-23 there was £150 payment to 30,000 households through the Scottish Government credit.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you, Alan. Thanks for that. Just another question just on employee turnover. Just having up, does look like we're above. I'm presuming that these values for Q1, Q2, Q3 are not cumulative and they're basically added together to get to the target. But I just wonder if somebody can confirm that, because if they are, if that's the case, certainly it seems to be our employee turnover is above what we want it to be.
Lola?
Thank you, convener. Yes, it was a recent committee that we brought the WIRE report, the Workforce and Inclusion Services report, which was a similar information in terms of employee turnover, and did show increasing trend in relation to employee turnover, which is so much number of our local authorities as well. So we will bring further information back through the format of that report. I have to provide additional details required.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that, because obviously there could be a case of a wee bit of a sticking after COVID and people are maybe moving who wouldn't necessarily move, but we'll also be able to manage that and review that in due course. That's fine. Thank you.
I suppose it's fair to say that our budget relies on a significant amount of turnover as well. I mean, I think around a significant turnover out of your budget. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, that takes us on to item 6, which is the 24-25 budget update. And before I ask Alan to introduce the report, just to say one or two words. I appreciate that we had quite a fractious budget debate at the council meeting. And I think it's important in terms of this meeting that officers aren't drawn into any political debate. So what I'm going to do is ask Alan to present the report, open it up for questions from members, and Alan can take questions. I'm happy to take any questions of me as well. And then following that, I will move the recommendations and report. And obviously anybody can move an amendment and then we can have a political debate. Okay, so Alan?
Okay, thank you. In line with the decision on the 29th of February, the report provides an update on the 2024-25 budget, including confirmation of the further 62.7 million funding for Scottish councils arising from the 6th of March UK government was announced. The report also provides all the correspondence with the council leader and the Deputy First Minister since the 29th of February meeting, which culminated in the exchange dated the 19th and the 20th of March, which forms the basis of the recommendations in this report. The report recommends granting delegated authority to the Chief Financial Officer to process a credit equating to the 8.2% increase in council tax for relevant accounts in May 2024. This being subject to the council share of the 62.7 million new funding being in line with previous indications from both myself and also Scottish Government. The committee support for the proposal to reverse the 8.2% increase in 24-25 council tax prior to arriving at the 25-26 council tax increase is also sought, whilst recognising that this will require approval by the full council no later than February 2025. In my role, I can confirm that the proposals in this paper, if approved, will have no impact on the decisions taken on the 29th of February relating to the 24-25 budget. The only change being that the proposed council tax credit will effectively be funded by one of Scottish Government grants. I'm happy to answer any questions as somebody has indicated.
Okay, thanks for that. Any questions? Well, Chris.
Thank you, Convener. Just a couple of questions, or 3 questions, sorry. With respect to recommendation 2.2, I do apologise. I've got them. It's 2.2, but with respect to what they call the fact that we were going to have it's going to be delegated to the Chief Financial Officer with respect to the council tax rebate. and that's going to be confirmed once it's confirmed in line with the estimated share. Can officers confirm that we don't expect to get that confirmation until the 17th of April?
Well,
My understanding would be that the settlement and distribution group, which I sit on, will consider it round about the middle of April, but thereafter it goes to causal leaders on the 26th of April. And causal leaders will need to sign off on it, and then thereafter I imagine there will be announcements from the Scottish Government. So I'm expecting, I would hope that we will get information out the first week in May as to what the council shares, which is why the timescales of running the credits, if this protocol is agreed, if the recommendations agreed, running the credits during May is the timescale that I indicated.
just to be clear, that timescale assumes that there is agreement between COSLA and the Scottish Government on the distribution of funding. The previous position of the Scottish Government was that only councils that closed council tax would get a share of that 62.7 million. COSLA's position is that all councils should get a share of that 62.7. So there needs to be a meeting of mind between the Scottish Government and COSLA before that final distribution is confirmed. Hopefully that will be achieved by the 26th of April, but we don't know for sure it will be achieved by the 26th of April.
I suppose it just as an idea of the timeline. So the timeline isn't letters going out next week sort of thing. The timeline is we're talking about making letters going out at some point in May, possibly.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's what I've indicated to you point here. That in 4.2 that the exercise will be concluded by the end of May.
Which means if you've got a direct debit for the end of April or any time during April, your direct debit will come off based on your council tax notice, which was issued in about 15th of March.
But thank you for that. That's sort of three questions. And hopefully I won't take as long with my subsequent questions. I do apologise, my brain's a wee bit fun, but got a wee bit of a dealing with virus at the moment. Not COVID, now, just with respect to the 4.2 with the actual cost for sending out letters, I note in the one-off cost is identified as £10,000. I was just trying to work out exactly, is there an additional cost that maybe not covered for that £10,000? Because if we're sending out 30,000 letters, it seems there's only £10,000, that's 30p a letter, and I think second-class stamps would seem to be a lot more than that, and obviously even the stationery and officer's time, etc. I'm just wondering if there's some sort of clarity of the make of the £10,000.
Well,
Do you comprehend? Yeah, I mean, the whilst we do get a bulk discount as we do for our annual billing as well, it is likely that between printing, postage, etc., the cost is going to be overall cost will be about £15,000 to £17,000 for 30,000 properties. And that includes any sort of software, etc. as well.
Just go from 15 to 17, not 50 to 70.
No. 15 to 17.
right, but you'll not be incurring any postage when you send my council tax bills out because I get mine through e-billing as to a significant number of people.
Can't hear what you said there, Stephen.
Sorry?
I didn't hear what you said there, sorry.
What I said was there'll not be any cost for my council tax credit notice because I get an e-bill as to a significant number of people get an e-bill.
And just finally, just with respect to the 4.2, it talks about a letter. I'm just wondering when we get sight of the contents of that letter and how that letter will be approved before going out.
Well,
My view is that will be an operational matter for officers, and it will just cover the facts. It's not going to be, obviously I'm acutely aware.
it's not going to be for me.
It's not going to be from the convener. It's not going to be having any political angle to it. It's purely a factual explanation of what the credit is for. So I really think that it needs member approval.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Councillor O'Brien, is that you again?
Yes, that's it. So looking at around the council tax money coming in and relatively like look at the whole budget. Is there any money in this budget which the Scottish Government will not release to the beginning of the year that we need to wait for that might impact on capital revenue streams. Just acutely aware that sometimes we get money goes back, and I don't know the answer to this question, but just something that may lead to us needing to borrow short term or whatnot, if there influence that we could see happening this financial year.
Philip?
And I think I gave an answer to members who were at the all member briefing on the capital and treasury strategy yesterday, that every year there is money that we don't get until March the next year, so we're front funding a lot of stuff. And as things stand at the moment, the 147 million for the council tax fees and the 62.7 million this report covers are not included in the circular that we've received. And so as a result, not in the general revenue payments that we would be due to get from next week. So unless anything changes, we wouldn't receive any of that money till March 25. However, my expectation is that given the high sensitivity around this £210 million, that an effort will be made to get it out to councils earlier than March 25. That's just that's what I'm hearing, but at this point in time, I couldn't give a date.
So just a follow-up on that, so what you're saying is that every year we do have money that we don't receive, which does lead to us having to borrow additionally or reallocate money throughout the year, is that what you're saying?
Yes, and that, to be fair, has always been the way, because if we get extra money from the Scottish Government for things like pay awards, it would be quite a substantial contribution to pay awards. So as soon as the pay awards agreed, we're paying the employees in the backdated element of the pay, but quite often we don't receive the money, the Scottish Government's contribution to that for many months after, and that's just coming across Scotland.
Thank you.
I think the other example you gave yesterday, Alan, was the money being held back for teacher numbers. That is quite a significant amount of money that we would potentially get them up.
At the moment, there's £145.5 million held back nationally, pending clarification of the teacher numbers. And at the moment, I would expect to get that, subject to meet the conditions in March 25, and I share that's about £2 million.
Okay, any other questions from members? No? Okay, so as I said, I'm intended to move recommendations in the report, and I want to make it absolutely clear that I still believe fundamentally the council tax freeze is the wrong national political priority at this time. It's certainly the wrong local priority. I would far rather that we had that 2.6 million from the government available to use however we want to use it, rather than obviously linked specifically to the council tax freeze. Those members who are on the IGB, for example, yesterday, sat and approved £5.2 million of funding cuts over the next 2 years. I would far rather we were able to use some of that 2.9 million to address some of those cuts and mitigate them. We're also facing significant pay claims for our workforce. We budgeted for 3%. Pay claims are of the order of 7-8% and higher when it comes to lower paid employees. And we could have used some of that 2.9 million to potentially make a higher offer to staff to avoid potential strike action. Unfortunately, much as I tried to argue the case for the Deputy First Minister, she was absolutely clear, and the First Minister has been absolutely clear, we will only receive that funding if we agree to implement a one-off council tax discount and adjust our planning assumptions for council tax in 25-26. So the administration is reluctantly prepared to agree to those conditions, but I have set out in my letter of the 19th of March 3 conditions which I expect to be adhered to before any decision is taken in February 25 or before, around reversing the 8.2% increase in council tax. I simply can't accept that we should have any further freezing in council tax or any further caps in council tax in the life of the Scottish Parliament. And we should absolutely be looking for that commitment from the Scottish Government. COSLA is looking for that commitment. Indeed, SNP council leaders are looking for that commitment. So far, we haven't had that commitment from the government, but I would certainly urge the First Minister and Deputy First Minister to make that commitment as soon as possible. So with that, I move the recommendations in the report. Has anybody got an amendment to move?
would like to move an amendment that we don't take any decision as a policy and resources, but they really refer to the matter to full council.
Okay. Anybody else want to contribute to the debate? Councillor Armstrong?
Thanks, convener. My issues are about governance. The SNP group wants these matters concluded as soon as possible, but decisions must be taken in the proper way. And I want to draw members' attention to two of our standing orders, and then invite, if they deem fit, the appropriate officers to comment. It seems to me that Standing Order 7.1.2b enables this committee to agree the process for collection, distribution, redistribution of income, but not the decision to do so. And Standing Order 54 applies. For these, I'll read them out.
Okay, that would be helpful, yeah.
Thank you. So, Standing Order 7.1.2b is functions delegated to Policy and Resources Committee. So it says to deal with the administration of the levy, collection, payment, and recovery of all income to the council. So that seems to me that's clear. The process, how it's actually done, is properly the business of this committee. However, Standing Order 54, decisions of the council. Standing Order 54 says, no decision made by the council shall be subject to review by any committee unless such review is specifically authorised by the council. So I think, in summary, what I'm very concerned about is that we do the right thing, but we do it properly. Part of the report is about process, and I think that part is properly within the scope of this committee. But the decision to do so, it seems to me, is not within the scope of this committee, and that has to be taken by a decision of full council, because we haven't had authorisation from full council to revisit this. We haven't. Thank you. I'm happy for anyone to comment.
Okay, but before I bring officers in to comment, we've got a report here written by the Chief Financial Officer with appropriate consultation with other officers with clear recommendations, which to me suggests that the recommendations are within the remit of this committee. This committee set the planning assumptions previously for the 2-year budget. This committee has been asked to authorise the payment of the credit. This committee is not being asked to reverse the decision of the council on the 29th of February to set a 2-year budget or to set a council tax increase of 8.2%, because that's not within the power of this committee. Any decision to reverse that decision or to revert, for example, to a 1-year budget would require a decision of the council. So we're not changing any decision of the council, but I'm happy for either Vicky or Alan to comment. Alan?
I'll start and then I'll pass on to Vicky, who is the monitoring officer. I mean, picking up Councillor Armstrong's point, I obviously when we were doing this report, we acutely aware of Standing Orders say, and I went through the recommendations and the decisions of the council on 29th of February, and there's nothing in this report which is reversing any of those or changing any of those decisions. The council agreed the level of council tax, a bandied council tax, and this isn't changing that. This is simply applying a credit with extra government, subject to us getting the extra government money to the council tax accounts. And I am comfortable that they are decisions that the Policy and Resources Committee can take. But obviously, the monitoring officer is the one who's charged with the legal interpretation.
Okay.
Thank you, through you, convener. Yes, I'm comfortable that the report, the recommendations set out today are within the terms of the standing orders, as Alan has said. We're not revisiting anything that was decided on the 29th of February. there's nothing being discussed in relation to changing the council tax rate. It's merely to do with applying a credit to the council tax, and that is within the remit of policy and resources.
Thank you. I think we're in the realm of Schrodinger's council tax rise now.
Sorry, I never called it councillor
I
Alston.
said, I think we're in the realm of Schrodinger's council tax rise.
Schrödinger, I don't understand what that word means. But I'm not being facetious, I just don't understand what it means.
Two possibilities exist.
Sorry?
Two possibilities exist before you open Schrodinger box.
Right, okay, can we be absolutely clear, right? What the Deputy First Minister first asked was that we called a special meeting of the council and reversed our decision. Okay, that clearly would be the position of your group, right? Now the Deputy First Minister is perfectly comfortable with a credit and us changing the planning assumptions and no requirement for a special meeting of the council. Officers have provided us with professional advice that these are competent recommendations within the power of this committee. Otherwise, Alan Buchan, with near 40 years service to this council, I don't think would have put the report forward with these recommendations. So we've got perfectly valid recommendations before us. We've got a motion, we've got an amendment. Anybody else want to speak before we go to vote? Councillor Knox.
Just if we really firmly believe that this should be dealt with at full council rather than through this committee. If I don't see how that's an order isn't valid, to be honest. This is a different. It's a revenue budget update. It's a revenue budget for 24-25 that was looked at on the 29th of February and is different to what was looked at on the 29th of February. Is the point I would make in terms of that. But if Alan and Vicky are both saying that this is a competent thing, then it reverts back for me to Wales Policy and Resources may be able to do this. It may be something they can do. I still don't think it's something that we should do. I think this is such a significant thing and has been such a difficult thing for us as a group of 22 councillors to deal with that it's important that we go to full council for the decision making around this. There's a lot of actions that have been taken with, and I've said this, I've said it in correspondence that you've been aware of, Councillor McCabe, that there's a lot of actions that have been taken with no governance around them, and I think the proper governance for this should be the council.
Well, we have to fundamentally disagree. This is the governance. I was perfectly entitled as the leader of the council to correspond and meet with the Deputy First Minister to negotiate this particular arrangement. This committee has proper governance over this arrangement. The council will be involved when any decision is required as to whether we reverse the 8.2% or not. That has to be a decision of the council, so the council will be involved in that process. I'm perfectly comfortable with the advice of the officers. I understand and I know the politics of why you want to refer it to the full council. It's a bit of showmanship, gamesmanship, basically. No, I'm sorry, we're having a political debate and I'm entitled to express a political view around that.
McCabe, can I ask you not to refer to my intentions and my motivations? I'm the person who speaks to my motivations. I'm afraid that you don't.
I'm sorry. In a political debate, you're able to interpret people's intentions. You're able to do that. It's perfectly legitimate to do that. So I don't understand the point you're making. You can interpret my intentions. You can criticise my intentions. The First Minister of Scotland stood out in that square out there and questioned my intentions and criticised my intentions, and says that the only reason this council put up council tax was to belittle the SNP, to spite the SNP. So he questioned my intentions. I'm perfectly entitled to question your intentions or any other member of this council's intention in a political debate. Okay, Councillor Cluskey.
Thank you. Just to address the point around, firstly around governance, that we've heard from officers that it's competent. And I think that should be enough for us to be able to make a decision. And actually, sitting with standing orders in front of me and the recommendations, it's abundantly clear. It actually says it right there that the council will approve any change to the council tax. What we're doing today is agreeing, as is in recommendation 2.2, to provide a one-off credit.
that's the decision that's been made by this committee, which is completely in keeping with the finance section of the P&R standing orders on page 24, which we've just had repeated by our monitoring officer. So, you know, I don't think it's it doesn't feel appropriate once we've had the decision of the monitoring officer to then question the governance of the process. But just on the substance more widely, I do find it rather baffling that the SNP group would come here today after a few days ago, as the convener just said, standing on those steps to say, let's delay the decision. You know, I do find that absolutely baffling. Like we've now had a full council, and we've had the exchange of letters that's in the pack, and we've come to a conclusion that even listening to what both Councillor Robertson and Councillor Armstrong have just said, that you agree with the principle in this, and we've just heard from the monitoring officer that the governance arrangements are fine. That's in the paper. So all this would serve to do, this proposal from the SNP group, is delay the process to begin the application of a credit to people's council tax bills. So why would we want to do that when we've come with a paper that, presumably given what's been said over the weekend, you agree with the ends, but you know what's the purpose here? I'm just as genuinely as a member of this committee, what's the purpose in delaying this when you have very publicly called for what this paper is trying to achieve? I just want to understand that.
We'll take that as a rhetorical question at this point. Councillor McGuire, did you want to come in?
No, that's been covered in.
Okay. Councillor Roberts, do you want to come back in?
Can I rhetoricalise it and actually answer that question? Thanks, convener. I mean, it really isn't a delay. You know, we came on the 29th of February with an alternative budget that would have avoided all of this happening had it been taken. There was a suggestion of a propose, which was the amendment that we stood our budget down in favour of from Councillor Quinn, that again wasn't taken, that would have avoided all of this happening. After the initial correspondences came forward after the 29th of February, I wrote a letter to the Provost requesting a special meeting of the council to discuss things, to get things moving quickly and to get some decision making around it. These aren't actions of people who want to delay, and we've clarified in the course of the questioning section before we moved into political debate to ascertain that the timescale for anything happening would be the beginning of May anyway. So we would be suggesting that full council is happening on the 24th of April. So sorry, pardon me, apologies, the 25th of April, apologies for that. That would be the meeting where it would be discussed. So there would be no delay in terms of the timescales that have been clarified in the course of the meeting. So there's absolutely no intention for delay. There's no action for delay, no request for delay. There's absolutely nothing about what we're doing that's about delay. And I hope I've outlined the series of actions that we've taken to make things happen as streamlined and straightforwardly as they could in the very first place, and then thereafter to make things happen as quickly as possible.
Okay. Maybe just remind you, Councillor Robertson, that as you said, you moved that 1 year budget on the 29th of May. Budget, so you don't actually have a budget on the table. We passed a 2 year budget. These recommendations protect that 2 year budget. So, and this is a rhetorical question, so I'm assuming you're now supporting a 2 year budget. But Councillor McCluskey, you want Councillor Moran first, and then Councillor McCluskey.
Thank you. You know, I think we're all looking at the whole point in this. We did have this meeting and we decided the council tax went up. But the very short of it is when you at least correspond with the Deputy First Minister, and we then came with an agreement, a compromise. And a compromise, there's no winner, no losers. Two winners, two losers. A compromise was reached, was the SNP government got the council tax freeze, and we still get our decision to raise the council tax. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I think the Deputy First Minister, and I know you're getting influence of yourself, and Stephen McCabe deserve a lot of credit for coming to an arrangement where we both can come out of this with both with benefit. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think that a bit of credit due to the Deputy First Minister and to the Council, who got a formal words with the officers' outputs, which we could all agree with and move on. That being, our decision stands in the Pupil Lumberclyde and the SNP get a council tax freeze. It's as simple as that, as I would say. There's no ambiguity in that. Everybody is a winner, everybody's a loser, in my opinion.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor McCluskey.
It's just to respond to the points that Councillor Robertson made there. Like, it is a delay. We've got a choice. We make a decision today. It's very similar to the debate we had in the council, you know, which was there seems to be an intention by the SNP group to constantly delay decisions. And you know, there was an attempt to delay on the 29th of February, there's now an attempt to delay now. And you know, we're all looking at each other in the eye around this table, right? Like, you know, there may be other motives at play, there may be political motives at play by the SNP group. Fine, you know, that's fine. You're perfectly within your rights to do that. But I think that the public of Inverclyde will look askance at a party that has called for the actions that are in this paper today, the exact actions that are in this paper today, and then sit in this chamber and delay it by another month. And I just, you know, let's all be honest around this table. We can walk out of this room today having made the decision to start the process, to provide a credit onto people's council tax bills. You make that decision today, or we can accept an amendment from the SNP group, which will delay that process starting by another month. And I would just ask that you think about that before you go down this route. Do you want to be in a position where the public of Inverclyde are going to be looking tomorrow and saying, the SNP group at Inverclyde Council called for this, and they have delayed it by a month?
Okay, Councillor Law.
I have to say I've been totally disheartened with this whole process. For me, it was an unnecessary political decision on the 29th of February, and it's cost the residents of Inverclyde thousands of pounds in unnecessary admin costs and overtime. It's resulted in a depreciation of public trust in this council, and sadly has increased the toxicity of our working environment in here. It concerns me what that means for people we're here to represent, when members are more interested in scoring political points than in making their lives better, or are negatively impacted in their ability to carry out their roles effectively given the environment that we now operate in. It really needs to stop for the sake of everybody in here, but more importantly for the people of Inverclyde who frankly expect better of us.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Law. It can actually point you to the paper where actually financially the proposals within this paper mean that over the 2 years we're actually better off by somewhere around £150,000. But let me just be clear, if we're going to get into a political debate now around the principles of the council tax freeze. So in March 2023, the SNP group voted for a 5.3% increase in council tax, when arguably the cost of living crisis was at a height. In August 2023, in this very committee, the SNP group voted for planning assumptions of 7% increases in council tax in both 2024-25 and 25-26. The SNP group, as I understand it, also supported the First Minister's plan to increase council tax for higher banded properties, E to H, by between 7.5 and 22.5% when he was consulting last summer. He changed that dramatically after the Rutherglen by-election. The SNP group walked out of our members' budget working group in January of this year when we couldn't get agreement on a consultation that involved a freeze in 24-25 and a 12% increase in 25-26. So you went from wanting to defend services and jobs, protecting those services and jobs, and being prepared to put council tax up both last year and this year significantly. In fact, last year, 23 you indicated you'd be prepared to have a higher council tax increase than 5.3%, but now suddenly the council tax freeze is so important, so paramount to protect people's cost of living. It has to be delivered at all costs. So you're now enthusiastic converts to the council tax freeze. I'm sorry, you've got absolutely no credibility in the council tax fees. You want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. If you raise enough figures, I think it's important to say that when we were in the members' budget working group, and what was agreed at this committee was an assumption from income from council tax, and I think it's fair to say that that assumption at the time we're making it would be in relation to possible increases in additional rates for higher band properties. Yes, this group is quite I do apologise. This group is, as a group, we did respond formally to the consultation on increasing council tax charges at higher band properties, and we were in favour of it because we've seen that it made the council tax less progressive. It shifted the burden onto generally people who could actually afford to pay more, and made it a more progressive tax. And it's something that we think, so that was part of it. That actually, if you had the vote to it, would actually have raised income of £2.1 million per annum without raising council tax for general and D properties. So that was the assumption that was made, and that was made clear when we were doing it. And I'm not sure if we're trickling in, Stephen, but that was the general assumption that the assumption was council tax income. And I'm aware that we actually, in the budget working group, made certain things about having an open consultation with respect to that. But I don't remember ever providing any figures to the budget working group about second year. I know we certainly discussed them within our group, but I'm not aware of that. And anyway, if it was within the members' budget working group, that was subject to confidentiality within our group. So generally, we believe that the income that we got from the council tax fees was at a similar level to that, which was part of our assumptions for this year. It's patently obvious it is, because we are assumption was £2.5 million with an increase in council tax to balance books. We got £2.842 million last time I looked from the Scottish Government for increasing council tax. Therefore, that's where we come from it. So I think we can look at all the numbers and say that that doesn't make sense at this point in time to increase council tax. And I know your statements that you've made that you are still of the view that we shouldn't be increasing council tax. And that's a legitimate point to make. We believe at the point we're at now, money is from Scottish Government, we should do council tax. And we're not trying to delay this action. The decision today is not on the critical path. It's quite clear from what officers have said and what Councillor Cape said that there's decisions to be made at other bodies in Scotland that will have an impact on the timing of the ability for us to put out these letters. So the decision we make today is not a critical path. So therefore it does not cause a delay. But we do think it is, as my colleagues have said, is important. We believe that this is discussed with the council. And we're not making it a political point. It would be easy for us to say, actually, yeah, let's just move on with things. But we do think it is important that these things are done. And I take in answers to what officers are saying with regard to the competence of this with regard to standing orders. We read the standing orders and seen something different, but we've got our amendment up there. By no means is this amendment going to cause delay to the council tax refund.
Okay, so just to respond on the consultation last summer, so you supported bands ETH having increases of between 7.5% and 22.5% in 24-25 before any local increase was applied. But now you need a council tax freeze to ensure that those properties benefit most from that council tax freeze. And the point about walking out the members' budget working group, and I said it to you at the time, that if council didn't indicate that they were prepared to put council tax up, there'd be no more money coming from the Scottish Government. And that £62.7 million was only secured because Argyll and Bute, Orkney and Inverclyde indicated to put council tax up. So we wouldn't be talking about 2.9 million, we'd be talking about 1.8, 1.9 million, the council tax freeze grant. So you should actually be thanking those three councils, including this administration and our colleagues in the independents, for actually securing that extra money. I'm going to go to Councillor Wilson, who's been waiting for a while.
Thank you, Convener. I think that since we've moved into politics, I wasn't at the full council meeting. I came in by video, and the same today. I get held up in Glasgow. But let me say, I think quite honestly that the performance of the SNP from the minute they walked out of the members' budget working group, performance has been poor. As far as you're concerned, convener, I think you come through this, particularly last month, with your integrity intact. And my colleague and I are both very supportive of the recommendations at 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, and we will be voting to support those recommendations. Thank you, convener.
Thanks, Councillor Lawson. Councillor McCluskey, and then I'll bring Councillor Robertson in.
Thank you.
Oh, Councillor I'll bring Councillor McCluskey. Sorry, Councillor McVeigh's not been in. Councillor McCluskey and then Councillor Robertson will have the final word. Councillor McVeigh.
Thanks, Maria. I'm going to be very brief. I still think the decision to freeze the council tax was the wrong decision at a time when we're facing a funding crisis. I think the ideal situation was to accept the proposal offer, given us the money, the 2.9 million, which is transferred to me, and we would have had a significant small increase in council tax for maybe 3.5%. I haven't listened to Mr. Buchan and Ms. Pollock. I do agree that this has the power to make that decision because we're not changing anything of the formal decisions of the council on the 29th. A lot's been learned from me in this process, but I think now it's time for and agree, disagree for want of a better word, but time is all in, time to move on and let's try and get back to where we were in the past.
Okay, thanks. Councillor McCluskey.
It was really just a response to a couple of points Councillor Law made. And I think this whole process can take a toll on everyone. I think there's a lot in what Councillor Law said that many people would recognise, but the way to resolve that, if I draw the line under it today, it's not by delaying it and having another month taken up by consumed by this debate. Like we all agree here that this has been a difficult set of circumstances, that it's difficult decisions. That's what we're sent here to do. We're sent here to make difficult decisions. But I think, as Councillor McVeigh just said, this is an opportunity to draw a line and to accept what's in the report and actually start to, focus our energies on what's in the best interests of our constituents and people of Inverclyde as a whole. And I think that's what we would be doing today, to accept this paper and draw a line under it and conclude this at the end of the conclusion of the negotiations that the leaders had with the Deputy Prime Minister. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah. Thanks. No, I just want to kind of bring up what Kirsty Councillor Ross said, and I think it's pretty sad. I mean, I'm looking across at Kirsty, and I've said in public, I've actually said to your mother and her friend, I met one night when I was out socially, and I think young folk like yourself should be applauded for getting involved in local politics. But when I look across the SNP group, I don't feel any different towards the SNP group than I did before the 28th February. So, I mean, I think it's a mistake to think that there's a kind of a toxicity or things have changed in relationships across the chamber, because some of us have been doing it long enough to know that that's not the way it should be. You should be able to come in here and have a robust debate and walk out them doors and still be friendly with each other. And that's the way I'm hoping that this is going to be. But I agree with Tommy and Martin. I mean, for the life of me, I want to draw a line under this and I want to move on, because thank goodness I'm not on social media, but some of the stuff that's there just in the news is just absolutely ridiculous. And I really feel for the folk that's embroiled in that, and I'm glad that I'm not involved in that sphere at all. But don't think that you're going to have a different relationship with me personally. And I know I speak for my colleagues as well. Going forward, we've got to work together. The 22s have got to work together. It's the only way it works. So I don't like words like toxicity. I think we've just got to get this thing done this week and move on.
Okay, thanks for that. Any Councillor Roxy, give you the last word.
Thank you. We do need to work together. We absolutely do need to work together. But for that to happen, there needs to be space for us all to be able to say the things that we need to say without being shouted at, without being harangued. And I would hope that every single person sitting in this room would agree and appreciate that every time I am here, whether I'm standing at full council or sitting in committee, this is the approach that I take. I'm not an aggressive person. I'm very consensual. I always want to work together. But if, when I'm approaching my colleagues like this, I still get very significant aggression, then it shows to me that there's not a lot of space other than when we agree with you. And we need to be allowed to have a different opinion without there being excessive aggression put at us when we do. And I think the 29th of February, and I know we are talking about specific meetings here, but the 29th of February and actually 17th of February were examples where that simply wasn't the case. And that would be a plea that I would certainly make, that while we are being measured and collegiate, no one can say that I am not collegiate in this chamber, but it can't just be that that's okay when my collegiality concurs with you. I should still be allowed to have a different opinion when I have one. And in this instance, not for delay or for anything else, but simply so that all 22 members of this council can be part of this decision making, we go ahead with the amendment. Not for delaying, not for posturing, not for grandstanding, not for politicking, but so that every one of the 22 members of this council get to be part of the decision making that's ensuing. Okay, so thank you very much.
We're just going to have to fundamentally agree. I don't agree with your analysis of the meeting on the 29th or the meeting on the 15th. I don't agree with your analysis, so we're going to have to agree to disagree. But we've got a motion and an amendment. Vicky.
So what's that?
Sorry. Thank you, convener. So we have a motion from Councillor McCabe, who's moved the approval of the recommendations for the report. We have an amendment from Councillor Robertson, asking that the item is remitted to and heard by council for consideration. We're going to take a roll call now. We'll call out everybody's names, asking who was the motion, the amendment for Stephen. Councillor Strong.
Amendment.
Councillor Hurley.
Amendment.
Councillor Law.
Amendment.
Councillor McCabe.
Motion.
Councillor McCluskey.
Motion.
Councillor McCormick.
Motion.
Councillor McGuire. Motion. Councillor McVeigh.
Motion.
Councillor Moran.
Motion.
Councillor Robertson.
Amendment.
Councillor Wilson.
Motion.
The motion is carried.
Okay, right. Can we move on now to item 7, Capital Strategy 24-2030 and Treasury Management Action Statement, Annual Investment Strategy 2024-25 to 27-28. Alan.
Thank you. This report summarises the contents of these two important strategies, which was also the subject of an overall briefing yesterday, which I know we're going to attend. Both strategies reflect decisions taken to date, but they also highlight the need in the medium to longer term for significant and increased levels of capital investment with a resultant financial implications that will be taken into account. It's recommended that the committee considers both strategies and then after remits them to the council for approval. I will take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Any questions from members? No, I'll make any recommendations. That takes us on to item 8, People and Organisational Development Strategy 2024 to 27. Mona.
Thank you, convener. This report covers two aspects. Firstly, it gives some examples of initiatives on the 2020 to 22 strategy and those impacts as we deal with paragraph 3.2. And secondly, proposes an updated strategy for 24-27, which is at appendix 1. And in terms of how this is going to be implemented and monitored, there's some detail within the appendix itself. as well as there'll be an action plan developed linked with the cross service plan development group. And some aspects, I'm sure of the forthcoming year will also in the CEDA for this month.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions, colleagues? No? No, have to agree? Thank you. Takes us on to item 9, updating digital modernisation programme and delivery of ICT and digital strategies. And Alan McDonald's going to speak to that. Alan?
Thanks, Convener. This is the regular report to committee providing various updates across the Digital Modernisation Project Board and the ICT and digital strategies. The report notes progress across a range of modernisation projects, including procurement progress in particular for the CRM replacement, corporate complaints, talent link, schools catering and the Victoria Forums expansions. It also notes several new submissions for review by the board. It also seeks funding approval for the upgrade of CRIS 21, including support from colleagues in another local authority and the creation of a temporary post to support the programme through to test and implementation. It notes the continued rollout of Microsoft 365 and the development of the collaborative and sharing elements, which include replacement of Icon with a corporate SharePoint site, the decommissioning of one of 2 bays in the data centre following the overall reduction in infrastructure following the migration to the cloud and replacement of legacy hardware, continued refresh programme in the schools and expansion of the bring your own devices statement. Finally, the work towards SWAN 2 implementation, including the completion of the contract negotiations. Both the ICT and digital strategies conclude this year, and it's intended to bring a single digital and customer service strategy committee later this year for consideration, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions, colleagues? Chris?
Just going to maybe a few minutes thing. And just to advise everybody, CRIS 21 is not my passport.
You're not 21. You're maybe 31 or 41.
Oh, thank you, certainly not.
Certainly not 21. Any questions from colleagues? No? Agree recommendations? Good. Okay, we're getting through this quickly. Okay, moving on to item 10, policy framework. Vicky?
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of this report is to set out a refresh of the policy framework. This refresh will require an action from the 2022-2023 external audit to review out-of-date council policies. There are 3 parts to this report. First part is seeking approval of the policy hierarchy, as set out in Appendix 1. Second part is seeking approval of an updated policy template, as set out in Appendix 2. And thirdly, the committee is being asked to note the list of policies and strategies as set out in Appendix 3. This policy register will be made publicly available, and officers will take forward reviews of the policies in with the planned review dates. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Vicky. Any questions? Elizabeth?
Thank you. It's not a question, it's just a comment. I think it's such a welcome paper. I think it's really needed in terms of, I think, one, the hierarchy is a really helpful thing to have, and also having the template there for people when they are developing new documents. It means there's a commonality, a thread that's going through all the documents that are there, and I think it's really helpful just in terms of good governance, good practice, and helping us be clear about what sits where and what needs to be reviewed by who and when. So it's really to say thank you to everyone for bringing this paper.
Ms. Armstrong.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, my question is, where is social work and social care?
Okay.
The HACP and IGB will have their own policy register, and it's set out in the report that the IGB will be dealing with it separately.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm the only person who thinks so there needs to be a crossover, but maybe I can take that out of the meeting. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor, if you have a look at paragraph 4.8 of the report, it mentions the HACP and how they need to deal with a separate policy with both.
So they've got their own governance framework, they've got their own boards, etc. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I think I agree with Councillor Robertson. I think it's a good piece of work. But the key now going forward is to make sure we're regularly reviewing policies and procedures, keeping them up to date. So I don't underestimate the challenge involved and the resource involved in that, but it is important that we set timetables for policies and review those policies and strategies within the timetable. And I'm sure the corporate management team will keep a close eye on that. Okay, I am expecting Councillor Cassidy to join us for the next item. Say, physically walking through the door just as they speak. There you are. So, item 11 is the 2024 Inverclyde Community Council's elections. So, Peter is going to speak to the report, and then I'm going to invite Councillor Cassidy as our Community Council's champion to say a few words. So, Peter.
Thank you. So through you, Convener, as members will be aware, following a review of the scheme of establishment of community councils completed in 2023, elections were held at the start of this year. They closed for nominations as at 7th of February, following which we had sufficient nominations to establish or re-establish 9 community councils out of a possible 11. That's the 7 pre-existing and 2 ones that are newly formed. None of these were contested in that no area were there more nominations than available spaces, so no ballots were required and declarations of results were issued on 12th of February. Regular meetings of the community councils are now underway with support from CLD colleagues who have also arranged a training event for community councils and continue to work with community groups in the areas that don't have an established community council. Members will note the undertaking provided by officers in that following completion of the review, we will, within a year of the completion of elections, bring a report on developments in community council activity over that period. My colleague, Mr. Scott's in the meeting as well, and both he and I are happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I'll ask Councillor Cassidy to come and say a few words first, and then we'll open it up to members. Paul.
Thank you, Convener, for allowing me to attend today and participate in the discussion on this report on Arundel's Community Council champion. I want to thank officers for bringing this report forward. I do think when we discuss it, we also have to bear in mind the significant work that was undertaken last year during our community council review, which got us to the point of elections this year. I'm delighted that following successful community council elections in February, we've seen a 30% increase in the number of community councillors in Inverclyde. We've seen 6 of our existing community councils re-established, 1 community council established after a period of activity, and 2 new community councils established in areas which have not had one for several years. In total, we now have 59 community councillors, 64% who are women. I'm pleased that we now have 9 community councils out of 11 operating, although it is unfortunate that in 2 areas we weren't able to establish one, and I want to be clear that was after everything possible being done in those areas by our officers to encourage people to stand. And I agree with the officers' view at 3.4 that they should continue to engage the community in those areas at this time, that we don't move for a second call for nominations. These successful elections and the review that we undertook last year wouldn't have been possible without the hard work and dedication of our staff, and I want to put on record my thanks and that of our community councils, to Stuart McDonald, our community council liaison officer, Hugh Scott and Scheme Communities, and particularly Louise McVeigh, Callum McClelland and wider CLD team, and of course to our staff and member services and communications for all the work that they've done to support the review last year and to support all the work around the elections this year. And I want to congratulate all of our new and returning community councillors and on their election. Last week we held a welcome event for them, and the overwhelming view was they appreciated the work that was done over the last year, the cooperative approach that's been taken, that was taken to the review and the election process and the reset and relations with them, and they are incredibly appreciative of the training programme that's been put in place to support them going forward. Last year, through the review of the scheme, Community Council, we considered changing community council boundaries, and I believe the outcome of recent elections proving the decision not to do that was the right one. I'm confident that these elections, the review that we undertook last year and the training put in place for community councils will strengthen our community councils for years to come. And I look forward to engaging with all of our community councils over the coming months and years ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Paul. Natasha, Councillor McGuire.
Thank you, Convener. So I want to echo what Councillor Cassidy said. It was thanking officers for all the time and all the effort that's went into the elections this year and all the engagement that's taken place. And I'm aware that the work's only just begun with the re-establishment of new community councils that we've got. To wish them and the new community councils all the best. In regards to Wolf Farm and Caldendale's community council, council for that area. And I'm aware that there was engagement with groups and individuals within that locality. Peter, you touched on in a year's time, I'm going to have a report on what's been done between now and then. But what would be really helpful, and you look at some statistics right now, but it would be helpful to get an understanding about what's going to be done to encourage participation in the short term, and what barriers within those areas there are to community council. Because this is an area that does have very, I'm going to say, a very vibrant Tara, where you do have local people who are centred to the community. So it'd be great to understand maybe why that's not translated into community council.
Okay, we'll bring you in to maybe comment on that.
Okay, thanks very much, Convener. It's a very good point, Councillor. I think the key thing for us is to work with the group within that area. We have a dedicated worker now in each of the areas, working with the wider community councils, and our plan is to try and encourage the participation of that group and other groups in that community to maybe set up a community council going forward. We want to try and make sure that the group in that area and the other area that's missing at the moment has an opportunity to try and move forward. Step by step, but hopefully by that time we should be able to get in more community who are more interested in becoming a member of that group, and we'll do everything as possibly can to take that forward.
Okay, thank you. Chris, you want to come in?
Oh, thanks, Steve. Just with respect to that point, sorry, switch my mic off. With that point, and just to try and clarify some of the issues about getting. I'm basically saying that we're not going to have community councils here because there's a sort of time period for starting them. And if you miss that time period, we've really got to wait until the next election. I'm just wondering, how do you go about it? Because if you're not going to have a second call for nominations, effectively it then says that there's going to be no community council in these areas until we have the next general community council elections. So I'm just trying to sort of tease out how we can actually be a bit active and agile on that to ensure that if we are getting that engagement from the community, we are able to actually then maybe press the button for starting up these community councils if possible.
Peter, can you take that one?
Yep, sure. So through you, Convener, the reference to the second call just now is that the process envisages if you have some that aren't formed, you can have a second call for elections. But the view of officers is that were we to do that at this point in the game, the result wouldn't necessarily be different. If there is interest between now and the next round of elections for the formation of a community council in one of those areas, it's called a 20 signatures letter. If we get signatures of 20 electors in that area saying they want a community council to be established, then we have to hold an interim election. So the fact that we don't do it just now doesn't mean we have to wait for 4 years. Would have been the shorter answer.
Thank you. The summary then was much appreciated.
Okay. Well, that's a minute.
Thank you. Start by thanking Mr McDonald and certainly Hugh Scott for the great work they've been to get to this stage. And a big thank you to my colleague Paul Cassidy, who knows they work tirelessly to try and get to where we're at. But I want to say a few words about my own community council, Kirsten Mosley. We're very fortunate within our new community council with two new Scots. We have somebody running for Afghanistan and somebody for Nigeria. And that is fantastic because it means that it's an inclusive community council, very much reflecting the community we live in. And maybe some of our residents here have took it for granted, community council, but I can assure you, if you talk to these two individuals, they're so passionate about giving this opportunity. And I hope that, Paul, you maybe use their story to try and encourage other people, to come up to become community councillors, because it's been a breath of fresh air, I have to say. Me and Maven on to see these two new people who are new Scots, who have made this their country and now want to act part in the community they live in.
Thanks for that, Robert. And Chris and I are equally delighted that the Port Glasgow East Community Council has finally been formed after 10 years. Sadly, it means we really can't go to Port Glasgow West anymore.
It's good that we can talk to you, know.
Yes, I promise it's already light on you with that one.
If you notice, you'll be slipped off the invitation list, Chris. Okay, any other?
It's just a comment, it's not a question. On Monday of last week, we had the Alliance Board meeting where we looked at some really substantial work that's been done in terms of locality planning, and I just think it's great, the opportunity that's there for the new invigorated cohort of community councillors to be absolutely forefront right in our communities where they are in terms of taking forward locality planning as well. So I think the synergies that are there, the opportunities are there for all those works to be done together is vast. And I think from that perspective and the increase in the number of community councillors we've got, I think we've got an exciting time ahead of us in terms of doing things that are the will of the community and the community, and the community actually being empowered to do them also.
Okay, thanks for that. Paul, you want to come back in?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just to pick up on the question that Councillor Dwyer raised earlier on, and just back up what Mr Scott had said in terms of the engagement from officers going forward. So I think one of the things as well that will help maybe convince people in the areas where there's not is to see all of the ones established up and running. You know, a key partner throughout this whole process for us has been the establishment of the Association of Community Councils in Inverclyde, and they really helped us to promote that during the council, the community council election process, and really worked with officers, particularly in areas, prime example being Port Glasgow East and Councillor Curley's ward, and they really helped bring forward a number of people new there. So I think that will be a key point going forward. That association will be strengthened now by having more members around the table, which is going to be great. And I think as well, and just from a kind of initial rule looking at things, some other local authorities have seen a kind of a decrease in community council engagement and people coming forward. So I think it's really positive for us in Inverclyde that we're seeing that increase. And just with Councillor Robertson's comments through there, I know that the community council are definitely looking forward to getting engaged, especially when it comes to the Alliance Board. And that's going to be a topic when we reconvene the Association of Community Councils with all the new members as well. So.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Natasha, you want to
Yeah, so I had some bit after Robert mentioned inclusivity as well. So first of all, just with the community council that's not been established in my area, I'm vaguely aware that it's historic. I think it was part of breaking down those past experiences that maybe being generationally passed down. I think you are right, seeing other community councils form, hopefully the good things that are happening in your way. Cowes now is being central establish a community council. On the flip side of that, just when we were talking about inclusivity, I do think that one common thing that I've seen is that there is a lack of online engagement at points, but I know that CLD will work with community councils to try and address that, because ultimately we do have some people that maybe are homebound or time bound in the time that they can spend there. I do think that is one of the barriers to community council, both for women, disabled and other minority groups.
Okay, thanks for that. Are you want to buy in, Paul?
Yeah, it was just
I'm regretting now inviting you into this committee.
It was just Robert, I forgot to address that. You Robert's right. We've got two new Scots that have joined you as community council called Glasgow West, and I think that's a really welcome development. And I spoke with one of those new members about trying to encourage more members of our new Scot community to engage in that process. I know he's really happy to work with myself and officers to kind of encourage that participation from that wider group in our community.
Okay, thanks for that. So I think we generally think it's been a pretty successful outcome, and we thank our staff and the existing community councillors for all the work that we've put in, and we thank Paul for his role. Community councils absolutely play a vitally important role in our community, and we obviously would like to see the other two established. They play such an important role that tonight I'm going to Kilmacolm Corners Village Community Council and not watching the Scotland game instead. So
you can give my apologies.
Oh well, I see. He's not as good an attender as me.
Unfortunately, I've got Riverclyde board meetings on a Tuesday.
Okay, right. So can I agree with the recommendations? Right. Thanks, colleagues. Right, moving on to item 12, tender provision of electronic call monitoring system, care at home services, delegated authority and change of weightings. That's a big title. Craig. You're on mute, Craig. You're off mute now, I think. See if you look at your sound might be turned down.
Still can't hear you.
That happened to me.
Might have to turn your keyboard.
The sound at all. Yeah, that's take my computer.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Can hear you now? Yeah.
Right, sorry about that.
Loud and clear.
Thank you, convener. The purpose of this report is to seek committee approval to grant delegated authority to accept a tender for the forthcoming electronic co-monitoring system for care at home services. The paper recommends that we approve the award for the contract from the 1st of July this year on a 3-year contract with 2 additional optional 1-year extensions included if required. The paper also recommends the approval of the use of 60% quality and 40% cost weighting, and this is in line with other recent contracts that the HSCP have entered into. As always, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Craig. Natasha, Councillor McLeod.
Sorry, this is not a question of this specific one, but more general, it's a question for our legal team. If this is a common practice, which I'm aware we've had many papers since 6 reporting split changes, we may get this written into our standing orders where if it is specifically for a social care projects, I'm just thinking rather than taking up time of officers to write a lovely report where we do read it and just want the necessity of empowering yourselves to do what you're going to do and things up to him.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah, certainly, we'll put it in for future review of standing orders for chats. Thank you.
Okay. Any other colleagues? No, happy to agree with recommendations? Okay, that takes us on to item 13, water quality management policy and control of asbestos policy, and Mona is the expert on this. So if you get any tricky questions for her.
Thank you. Not fancy very much relation to this in terms of we're seeking committee approval of the water quality management policy and updating control space policy.
Thank you, Mona. Any questions? No, it's really routine anyway. We're happy to approve. Yep. Okay, so we do have one further item, which is the remit from the Environment Regeneration Committee around planet income. Alan's going to speak to that.
Thank you. This matter has already been raised and supported by the Environment Regeneration Committee, but because it involves earmarking windfall income, in this case relating to planning related income, up to do with Auckland Road. The Policy Resources Committee approval is needed. As officers, I would recommend that this is agreed, given that the cost of the local plan can be considerable. Stuart has no dedicated budget for this around 5 years or 4 years. He's got to incur a lot of costs, so this would help with the ongoing work there, if that can be released by the committee.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thank you, convener. A question really for Stuart. I don't know if he's there. Can you tell me, is this money going to be used for consultants or for our own staff?
Stuart is on the call. Stuart.
Through you, convener. It could be a combination of both, Councillor Wilson. The most likely use of it will be for consultant costs, but with the appointment of the new head of regeneration planning and public protection, obviously that's a significant resource in terms of planning policy, and we're in discussions with him about the best route to market.
Thank you.
Okay, can I agree recommendations? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your attendance and participation.